slider. That's on now. It's awesome. So, it's Sunday morning. Was it February 17th, according to my watch? I noticed that last night that the sun didn't go down until like 6:30. It's great. No. Because the wind wasn't blowing until like 10. So, good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Good, awesome. This is weird being down here. I do. I'm like staring right at people instead of staring down, which is good. So, I'm not sure that anybody else has any announcements this morning. If you do, you could raise your hand, but you can go after Janet does.
You know, I feel the need to talk about the phone tree. And I don't know if everyone understands how it works, because a lot of people ask me questions that I know they don't understand how it works. So the phone tree is a system, but it's a system that has to be connected to a phone. And it's electronic, and what you do, let me just first tell you, it belongs to Napanee, okay? And so really, Burl and I are the only ones can do it because I live in Napanee. So a lot of times I'll be out or away from home, and people will ask me, could I send out a phone tree? And I can do that via email on my computer. For some reason, I can't do prayer requests from my phones. And I can't because I can't do group, it will not access my group. And I don't know how to set up a group on the phone. So anyway, enough said about that. But so what happens is I input everyone's names and as many phone numbers as you want. A lot of times people are out of town, they want their cell phone, but when they're home, they want their home number on there, and that's wonderful. So I do the message and then it goes out. So I just wanted to let you know like how that worked. I don't know if anybody else has issues about it, but people have been asking me just different questions, and I thought I need to come and tell you. I think we're allowed to have 6, the phone tree allows us to have 6 lines, like 6 groups, right? Burl has a couple groups, and he just said to me, if you want a separate group for like seasoned seniors, I can do that. The phone tree, our phone tree takes about 2 hours, and it depends on if people are home or not. If they're home, they pick up right away. If they're not, you know, the answering machine picks up, and that takes a little bit longer. I just want to let you know, but it's about 2 hours. Burl and I have little issues about who takes precedence whenever we both have phone tree prayer requests, right? So here's the deal. Usually, of course, I let Burl take precedence, but my list is shorter than his, and so we don't take as long as his does. But what I always say to him, we had it at Creekside. We had a phone tree, and he liked it so much, that's why Napanee has a phone tree, right? So I always say, but I'm the reason why you have the phone tree. In jest. I just want to let you know, it's just in jest. So just know when you ask for a phone tree, I am not always there. The phone tree is set, I usually only have it set to begin at 8, unless it's certainly an emergency. It begins at 8 and it ends at 9, which is, to me, it's still a civilized hour. And so a lot of times, which I'm kind of learning, a lot of times it'll start it, but if the list goes too long, it doesn't pick it back up until the morning. So if I'm saying, well, today, a lot of times you're thinking, like if you're somebody that gets it at the end of, like if you're in the other half of the list, you're saying today, oh, but meanwhile I meant the day before. So that's always an issue as well. Just wanted to let you know how it works because people are asking me, okay? And it's a wonderful gift, and it's nice that we can share it because now, before you used to be able to just get it, now it's different where they charge you for every phone call. Like you can have it, but every phone call you make is like a nickel, which I feel like you can't just make announcements anytime you want. So I feel like that we've really been blessed with that. So thank you.
Hey, Mark, can you run over to the side of the podium and switch cables number 2 and 3, please. They're labeled, but you have to look. I'm old, I have to look real close, but thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was an announcement from up high. Anybody else have any announcements?
Maybe I could just come to this. Okay. The twin babies, can you hear me without my, okay. The twins that I told you about last week were born on Tuesday, one boy, one girl. So, but then yesterday, as I understood it, and I don't have details because Sharon hasn't texted me yet with details, she just texted Sarah. The father, Brandon, was in an accident, which is kind of bad, I guess, and he's going to be in a back brace for 6 weeks. So I guess Heather's not going to be able to depend on her husband for a whole lot of help, but his parents are going to be helping them. They're close by, so they're somehow either coming to their house or they're going to go there, which will help because they have 2 little girls, other little girls, who are 5 and 4. So they've got 5 and 4 and just born.
Yikes. So I've been rereading Romans for an assignment, essentially. And boy, is Paul wordy. Just sometimes talks in circles like I'm trying to read the Riddler, if you know who the Riddler is. But it seems like every time, every chapter, he ends with a whole section about we are human, we mess up all the time, we screw up, we fight, we do all kinds of stuff, but we're always saved because of grace. Almost every single chapter in Romans ends that way, because God is great and he gives us grace and we don't earn it. He just gives it freely. So let's bow our heads for prayer. Dear Lord, be with us this great Sunday morning as we gather in this house of worship to worship you, to give you the glory that we can provide from our souls that you have birthed in us, that we can honor everything that you have given us, especially your grace. Amen. And we'll have prelude. we'll invite the praise team forward for Ubuntu. And please stand as you're able.
Does anybody want one of these that don't have one?
Ubuntu, Ubuntu, sharing our visions and dreams. Ubuntu, where justice flows like a life-giving stream. The people together, joining our hearts and our hands to welcome the stranger and cherish the friend and to work for the peace of the land. And so we do life. Sisters and brothers, made for communion, bound to each other, one holy union, gone by our vision, gone by desire, drawn to the circle, found God's holy fire, made by God's power to live as God's own, made to be seen and be heard and to be known. Ubuntu, Ubuntu, sharing our visions and dreams. Ubuntu, where justice flows like a life-giving stream. The people together, joining our hearts and our hands to welcome the stranger and cherish the friend and to work for the peace of the land. And so we do life. Called out to follow Jesus our brother, who gathers his children just like a mother, tenderly holding this new creation, making and molding a new holy nation, marked by the water and given our name, ruled by God's Spirit, refined by holy flame. Ubuntu, Ubuntu, sharing our visions and dreams. Ubuntu, where justice flows like a life-giving stream. The people together, joining our hearts and our hands to welcome the stranger and cherish the friend and to work for the peace of the land. And so we do life. This is our vision. I feel the sharing, holding back nothing, dreaming and daring to live this communion that breaks us and binds us, holds us and God give us courage to do what we say. Christ give us strength for the living of these days. Ubuntu, Ubuntu, sharing our visions and dreams. Ubuntu, where justice goes like in life-giving stream. The people together, joining our hearts and our hands, to welcome the stranger and cherish the friend, and to work for the peace of the land. Ubuntu, Ubuntu, sharing our visions and dreams. Ubuntu, where justice flows like in life-giving stream. The people together, joining our hearts and our hands, to welcome the stranger and cherish the friend, and to work for the peace of the land. And so we do life.
Call to worship is in your bulletin. I'll be the leader, which I'm not really a leader today, but I'm the leader for this. And you're the people, because obviously you're the people. The poor and those in solidarity with them.
God is on your side.
Those who mourn and feel grief about the state of the world.
God is on your side.
The nonviolent, gentle, and humble.
God is on your side.
Those who hunger and thirst for the common good.
God is on your side.
The merciful and compassionate.
God is on your side.
Those characterized by sincerity, kindness, and generosity.
God is on your side.
Those who work for peace and reconciliation.
God is on your side.
Those who keep seeking justice.
God is on your side.
Those who stand for justice and truth as the prophets did, who refuse to be quiet even when slandered, misrepresented, threatened, imprisoned, or harmed. God is on your side. Please open your hymnals to 307. Will you let me be your servant? 307.
307.
Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the night time of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping, when you laugh, I laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen this journey through. When we sing to God in heaven, we shall find such harmony. Jesus Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too.
Now we're going to invite Beth back down here. She's going to get a lot of exercise this morning for Heart of Child Storytelling.
Janet's sermon for today says, "We are not alone." And yesterday I had a perfect example of that. For several weeks I've been watching the calendar, and I had put this archery tournament on it, Indiana Indoor State. And last year I went and I came home with a gold medal. Did relatively well for being kind of a newbie. But I mean, I haven't touched my bow much at all the last 3 months. Since October, and I've only gotten back into it the last 3 weeks or so. So I thought it would be ugly if I went down there, but I thought, you know, it's Indiana State, it's a small tournament. What am I gonna do, sit home, watch YouTube? So I decided, just go. Maybe I'll just watch, I'll go. So I took my bow. Now, I've watched enough other archers' YouTube videos to know that you carry certain things, you carry duplicates in your bag in case of failure. So I had extra arrow rests in case my arrow rest fell apart. I had extra things, you know, other things in there. But there was one piece of equipment that I never had a duplicate for, because I thought, who would need a duplicate for that, you know? Well, on Friday, I went to Barcola Archery to practice, and all of a sudden I realized that my poor arrows were just, the veins were just getting shredded. And I thought, what is the problem? And all of a sudden I looked at my clicker. Now, I don't know if you guys remember when I put my bow together here in church. There's a little piece of metal when you shoot Olympic ILF. You attach it to your riser and it comes down and it sits at the end of your clicker plate. And then when you stand there and you come to full draw, and then you do the back tension thing, that little clicker is supposed to go off. And that's when it tells you to release the arrow. Well, they put this little protective tip at the end of those clickers so that it doesn't shred your arrow, because it's a very thin little plate, not much wider than a razor blade. So you can imagine if you lose that little protective tip, that's why I started shredding my arrows. The veins. So I thought, oh boy. So I got down there and realized the problem. So I asked around, anybody have duct tape? Nobody had duct tape. So this one guy that was running the tournament, he said, I've got this other kind of tape. So we wrapped that around it. And I started shooting when we started shooting the tournament. And it seemed to be going okay. It was making it was just going thud instead of a click. So I was kind of having to watch when the clicker was going off, and I'll tell you, that doesn't work real good either. So there was this gentleman, a few people down from me, who heard me talking about my problem, and he was trying to look at it. And then sure enough, halfway through the first 10 rounds, that tape flew off. And so I had to unlatch the clicker and put it up and just use it without. And that's not good either. So we got to the end of the first half and we broke for lunch, and he came over and he says, I've got a spare clicker. I've got a spare clicker. Here, use this. And I said, I can't do that. You know, that's $15. It was the same clicker. And he said, yeah, you have to put it on. And so I looked at him, I said, well, I'll give you some money. No, don't worry about it. He said, just pay it forward. So I thought, okay. So I put the new clicker on. And I thought that was so wonderful, because we had just had a conversation about, he says, he's from southern Indiana. He says, are you the only Olympic recurve shooter in your area? And I said, well, kind of, sort of. So we were just kind of comparing notes. And then I got to thinking, well, I had paid it forward, because when I got there, this young man that shoots at the Michiana Archery, he'd forgotten his stringer. Well, you're not supposed to put an Olympic ILF bow together without a stringer, because you can damage your limbs. So I thought, well, I had shared. And I know that goes on all the time, that one person is missing something or has equipment failure, and everybody just seems to jump in and help each other out. And so it just kind of dovetails with Janet's sermon. We are not alone. Even if we go to an archery tournament and we don't shoot our best, you can still have fun, persist at it, and yeah, just enjoy the community and learning from each other. So, thank you.
Benevolent God, you see those who are hungry, poor, marginalized, who too often we overlook. You recognize their humanity and their suffering, and promise to overthrow the rejection they encounter in our world. Help us to be a part of that transformation. Take our gifts to feed the hungry and sustain the poor. Multiply our gifts to erase the margins of our society, embracing us all in your inclusive love. Amen. And join us for hymn number 648, Morning Has Broken, 648.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first word. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them bringing fresh from the word. Sweet is the new sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of a new day.
Oh, by the way, folks, we do have a YouTube audience this morning.
We have two passages of Scripture today, one Old Testament and one New. The first is Psalms 1 on page 489 in your Pew Bible if you want to follow along, and the second will be page 64, Luke in the New Testament. Psalms 1. Happy are those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or take the path that sinners tread, or sit in the seats of scoffers. But their delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law they meditate day and night. They are like the trees planted by the streams of water, which yield their fruit in its season, and their leaves do not wither. In all that they do, they prosper. The wicked are not so, but are like the chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of their righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. Luke 6, 17 to 26. He came down with them and stood on a level place, with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all of Judea, Jerusalem, and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. They had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases, and those who were troubled with unclean spirits were also cured. And all the crowd were trying to touch him, for the power came out of him, and he healed all of them. Then he looked up at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you, on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy. For surely your reward is great in heaven, and that is what their ancestors did for the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will go hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestors did to the false prophets." Pastor Jen.
Okay, this sounds like a Charlie Brown saying, but it came from a comic. And the comic says, but it sounds, I'm going to just say Charlie Brown is saying, "Boy, sometimes I feel like the whole world is against me. And then deep down inside, I know that's not true because some countries still remain neutral." Well, I thought that was cute. You know, so, yeah, Dawn's going, you would. I want to show a video. It's a little cute video about trees, but it's a really interesting thing that I never knew about trees, and maybe you did. So when you're ready, it's like a 3-minute video. Was a wonderful cartoon that taught us a lot. Did you know that about trees, that they're so interconnected through a fungi, right? Not in the roots. I started looking, thinking, do they merge? Do the roots merge? Do they help each other out? And I found out about this fungi. And this is what a writer says about trees in human terms. We kind of got that idea, right? Because it sounded like maybe that's what God has for us too, to have this interconnection and interdependence on each other and on God. This gentleman who wrote this book, The Hidden Life of Trees, What They Feel, How They Communicate, Discoveries from a Secret World. He says, in the way that if we look at it in human terms, he says, trees can count, learn, and remember. Nurse sick neighbors, warn each other of danger, and for reasons unknown, keep the ancient stumps of long-failed companions alive for centuries by feeding them a sugar solution through their roots. I thought that was really powerful. I didn't know that. Dana, I bet you knew that about trees. Yeah, and you said you... Yeah, that's a pretty interesting thing. Even trees get it, right? Trees get, I think, what Jesus is saying. How do you feel like when there's an interconnection, when you feel like someone who cares for you, maybe that you never expected them to care for you, or come alongside you when you were having a challenge? Do you understand how that feels, right? If someone, maybe you don't even know, a stranger gives you a good word, right? Something that you've been really caring about that you never said, someone comes along and gives you a good word. That's that interdependence, right? That to me is this God thing that's such a mystery. I want to tell you this story about how I see that interconnectedness and what that means to each person that gets that idea when you finally understand it. This was a middle school story, and this teacher talked about kindness being the cultural theme of the school. Like that was something that they really worked on. They would have rallies, and every month or something they would have talks about kindness that are happening locally and kindness that is happening globally, just trying to help the kids understand what kindness would mean. And they even had this kindness wheel, which I thought was so fun. I mean, Sherry, you might know about those kind of things. But they had this kindness wheel that encouraged kids to spin the wheel, and whatever kindness came up, that's what they were to do. And so there was this theme of kindness, and the teacher said when something happened that really threw her off, saying, how could this have happened? She said, the kids are all on social media. It doesn't matter how old they are, right? And she said one night she received a personal message from an Instagram, and it was from a student. And he said that somebody had left a mean note on his locker, and he was so upset. And so he calmed him down and really heard what he had to say. And so she said, we'll talk about this in school. We'll try to take care of it, right? So the next morning, this little boy comes to her, and he has another little boy with him. But in the meantime, I wanted to say that this boy had posted his mean remark somebody had given him on Instagram to show the other kids somebody had left him a mean remark. And so that's important for you to know, because the next day the little boy comes to the teacher with another little boy, and he has two notes, one the mean note, and the other one was a note that had a beautiful apology to it. And the teacher said, oh, well, do you know who gave you that note, who left that note for you? And the other little boy that accompanied him said, it was me. I wrote the mean note. And so let me just read you what the little boy says. He said, it was me. I don't know why I did it, but I know it was wrong and not at all kind. So I wrote him this note, and I also wrote 150 Post-its with kind sayings on them and put them in all the lockers. I just wanted to do something to try to make up for my meanness. I thought that was so fine. So the teacher was saying to him how courageous he was, how brave he was to be able to admit that he did that, and knowing that he might suffer himself, right, for being so unkind. And so the teacher said to the little boy who received the notes, do you think he's brave and courageous, and are you ready to forgive him? And this is what the little boy said without hesitation. Yes, definitely. And if anyone tries to be mean to him for making a bad choice, I will stand up for him. Interdependent and interconnected. And how, when we meet things with kindness, we meet things for the good of the other person, how it changes things. Like how that little boy, when he saw that he had posted that mean Instagram note on Instagram, it changed him. He understood what he had done. And he understood how it affected that little boy and how it affected other people. It's made such a difference. I was wondering how you felt when you recognized somebody being kind to you in a way that they knew that there was something going on. They brought a kindness. They gave you a kind, encouraging word that changed your day. And then in the midst of changing your day, you changed others' days too. Does anybody remember anything that someone has done or said to them that really made a difference, that made a difference in your day, and that you passed it on? Can you see like how that interconnection makes a difference? Like one person realizing what they've done and they being kind and doing all those kindness notes, and how that might have transformed the school in just that day. And what a change. Maybe that's all what we need to be blessed. And that's what I was thinking. I know that we've heard this a million times, right? This scripture passage. But I want to just say that blessing, in Jesus' day, people with wealth were the ones that were blessed. The other ones were not blessed. They never saw themselves as having blessings. They saw themselves as being less than, not have any worth, because how could God love them? How could God be for them, right? We don't have everything that other people have. But what I like about this is a little different than Matthew's Sermon on the Mount, right? This Beatitudes is a little different. That was Sermon on the Mount. This is titled Sermon on the Plain. So Luke is someone for the marginalized. Luke has Jesus coming down in the midst of the people, and it wasn't just, he was speaking to the people who were poor, the people who recognized they had need. But he comes down in the midst, and he's in the midst of all kind of people, because people are following him. They want to know what he's doing. They want to hear what he has to say. And he's kind of leveling it out, right? I mean, if you wanted to say that, you could say he's leveling out the playing field. He's leveling out where he's coming down and saying, God blesses you as well. Sometimes I know poor people don't feel like they're blessed, right? But there's more to the message. And he's trying to say, look, we all belong together. We all have something to give. We all have value. Each one of us has a gift that's as important as the next gift. Some people are wealthy and some people have time to give. But it all works together. There's no hierarchy of blessing, and there's only kingdom of God blessing. Could you see how life could be a blessing if we understood how we belong together? How the trees even get it, that sharing makes such a difference for your brother or sister that's next to you that doesn't have what they need. Those trees were like sharing, saying because these little ones, these smaller ones, these new ones needed something. And even they were saying like, the trees, if they're all like together, the trees automatically know to have their branches grow this way, so you have space for the other tree, for their branches to grow. So no one is lacking the nutrients of sun and water and the things that they need. I think that's so powerful, and I can't deny any of that because I don't really know enough about trees, so that really grabbed me. That grabbed me to understand, like, there's this beautiful connection between us as people, and now maybe with creation as well. we're no longer alone. And Jesus is saying, you're not alone. God is with you. But each of you are not alone because each of us has something to give, something to bless each other with. That is a powerful message. We don't grieve alone. We don't rejoice alone. We're not celebrating alone. We're not standing alone. Like that little boy said, I'll stand for him. If anyone says that he's mean for being so mean, I'm standing for him. That's a powerful thing for a child to teach us. And to know that for justice and peace, we stand for people that don't have a voice. That's what we can do. We can advocate blessings. That's the fullness of life. Those trees have this fullness of life. Those little boys became this blessing to each other and to the people around them. The teacher said it was like a miracle. She saw it as a miracle that something like this happened, and she said, of all the times we're teaching kindness and what she was taught in the whole midst of that story. Jesus said, blessed, he's down in the midst, letting the people know that each person has something to give and that God is always with us and we are always with each other. So, this week, may God bring to mind a time when someone comes alongside of us with the support we needed and we felt blessed. And this week, may God make us aware of someone who could use a kind word of support this week, and we bless them with it. And maybe we might want to use Post-it notes. Amen.
Please stand as you're able for our final hymn, Bind Us Together, up here on the screen.
Bind us together, Lord, bind us together with cords that cannot be broken. Bind us together, Lord, bind us together, bind us together in love. There is only one God. There is only one King. There is only one body. That is why we sing. Bind us together, Lord, bind us together with cords that cannot be broken. Bind us together, Lord, bind us together, bind us together in love.
We go out, blessed in the midst of God's love, blessed in the midst of our world, blessed in what we feel, see, do, blessed. Even in the times when we find it hard to see the blessing, even then, we can know ourselves as the children of God, especially then. We can know, see, feel God's presence in our lives. Blessed, God's love in our lives, given by the one who came to save. Blessed are you, in the name of Christ.